Hi everyone, thanks for watching again. News has been a little bit slow on the Model 3 front, so I thought I'd talk about something a little different today. First, I want to mention that the great folks at FDR-AX, now they're in Florida and they make some great Model S and X accessories, sent me a pre-release copy of this new book called Getting Ready for Model 3. It's available now. I'm not going to review the book today because Ken and I are going to cover this on our show. Which should be out around the 24th of the month, so watch for that. So this is available on Amazon.com. It's also available on their website. Highly recommended. Read it cover to cover. Anyhow, so there's a section in here that really discusses when can you expect your Model 3, and it's a constant question that I get pretty much all the time. So today I really want to talk about when can we expect to see the Model 3? Not necessarily in final production form, but when are we going to see this car kind of driving around? So I think the best way to answer this, and it happened across my mind today when I was coming back from a job, that the timing seems to coincide quite similar to what Tesla did with the Model X. Now, I know a lot of the viewers here are all about the Model 3 and they don't really have a lot of history on Tesla and how they do things. So if we go back in time, we'll just talk about Model X quickly. The Model X, which is their SUV with the, the Falcon wing doors, that car, the prototype was shown for the first time in February of 2012. Now, you have to remember, the Model S was not in production at the time. It didn't go into production until later in the year. We really didn't see the Model X after that for many years. Now, they did show it a couple of times at some Tesla stores, and they took it to CES, put it in the Panasonic booth. And the real reason for that was because when the Model S finally went into production at one Car of the Year award in early 2013, Tesla was caught off guard with the massive amount of orders that they got in. So they really had to focus on Model S production ramp and all these issues. So they really kind of took the Model X and kind of set it aside and didn't focus on it quite so much. In that meantime, they spent a lot of time kind of redoing a lot of designs, and they kind of went crazy with that Model X, which is why they have some production issues and so many delays and stuff. Now, a lot of that stuff is in the past now. It's kind of sorted out. So the problem is that because of these delays with the Model X, a lot of people have got it in their mind that Tesla can't bring a car out on time. Now, you have to remember, too, that Model 3 design was ostensibly started around about 2014. And they've learned a lot from Model X on what to do and what not to do. And obviously with this car, it's all about building a simpler car and not so many bells and whistles in there. Matter of fact, Elon has mentioned many times that if they can't make a feature for Model 3 on time or under budget or on budget, that is just going to be cut from the car, and we'll leave it to a future thing. So that's something that they learned from Model X, is not to keep piling on features because it causes delays. So having said that, some of the indicators about timing for Model 3 hit me today when I was thinking that the timing that Tesla's kind of announced for Model 3 going into production, or let me back up a little bit. They're talking about volume deliveries in late 2017. Now, everybody's been talking about this date of July 1st that they have on the table for internal as well as manufacturers to be ready for starting production. Now, July 1st is not the date that they're going to start producing this car. That's just the date that they have to work towards and work backwards from in order to get a better sense of things that are going on. So the timing seems to be just about right for what they did with Model X. Now, in November of 2014, if I recall correctly, Tesla had put out a video shortly after they did the expansion at the factory for the Model X production line, and at the same time they had expanded the Model S production line and also put in this new $250 million paint facility that can do 10,000 cars a week. So that was kind of thinking in the future, getting ready for Model 3. Shortly after that, around about January of 2015 was the first time we saw Model X in the wild, and they were doing some testing at the Alameda Naval Facility in San Francisco on the other side of the bay there, and there were some spy shots. And then came February and March, we started seeing prototypes, mules, if you will, driving around, testing various aspects of the vehicle. So there was a lot of discussion about the Model X on various forums. and, you know, analyzing it to the nth degree and say, oh, the doors are not aligned. That was a big issue. I mean, pre-production car, what do you want? Anyway, make a long story short, over the course of the succeeding months in 2015, running into July, when we actually started seeing pre-production vehicles running around. At that point, and then we kind of sort of got a better idea of the colors that were going to be offered. The first mules that I was talking about, we saw a white one and a black one, and then towards the summer months when the pre-production cars were out, we got to see blue and red and some of the other colors. And they all had the nose cone in the front wrapped and vinyl wrapped to, you know, kind of hide, you know, the eventual nose that was going to be put into production. Then, of course, you know, Tesla's had some delays with the Model X, so production of the vehicle, even though they did the final reveal in September, production of the vehicle really didn't start until really late in 2015. And, you know, here we are, you know, September of 2016, and, you know, cars in full production, and, you know, those issues are kind of over. So that kind of jogged my memory a little bit with the Model 3 as far as what they're planning on. So they're talking about a July 1st time frame and volume deliveries towards the end of 2017. So to me that means, you know, being September now, that I would say about a year from now we could expect that production will probably really start in earnest. So what does that mean when we're going to actually see the cars? Well, if we back up a little bit, you know, the timing with Model X as far as seeing the actual pre-production cars out on the street, that I would suspect, because Tesla currently is in the midst of expanding the factory and building the production lines, which will probably be ready, I'd say probably be March or April, somewhere in that vicinity, that we will probably start seeing more prototypes, mules, if you will, driving around, probably around January, February timeframe. These will probably be built out of some hand-built parts because the production line may or may not be completely ready at that point. And then over the course of the summertime, we should see more and more pre-production Model 3s out on the streets. Tesla's been pretty good at secrecy in a lot of ways. There was a lot of conjecture, of course, when the Model X was coming out, what was the interior going to look like. And it wasn't until really late in the game that we actually got a chance to see a little bit of what the interior was going to look like. Now, this is a big deal because Tesla has a history of building prototypes that essentially from the outside look like what the car is going to look like when it goes into production. But the insides have always been, when they show the prototypes, not what they actually put into production. And of course, the consensus is with Model 3 that the interior that we've seen on the prototypes is not what's going into production. So in the case of the Model X, we saw one snapshot, or it was a short video that someone took, and they were passing one of the Model X's coming to a stop, and they kind of took their, you know, their camera and went up like this, and we got a shot of the dashboard, and it was clearly not the prototype. It looked just like a Model S, and of course, as we all know now, the interior of the Model X just looks like a Model S now. And of course, they were very secretive about the second row seats. They didn't show any of that stuff. We got one spy shot from, I think it was taken in a warehouse in Michigan, if I remember correctly. It was very obscure. It was the only time. So they're pretty good about keeping that fairly quiet. We might get lucky with Model 3. We might see the final interior on one of these spy shots somewhere. I don't know. We might even get lucky, and you know, if Tesla is actually a little bit ahead of the game, that we may end up seeing prototypes maybe towards the end of the year. But I wouldn't count on that. The timing doesn't seem to work quite as well. So I think it's more going to be like Model X. So I would suspect, you know, early spring we'll start seeing some pre-production mules, validation cars, if you will, to test the battery packs. That also ties in with the Model, or not the Model X, but the Gigafactory. They're talking about cell production, the 2170 cell, towards the end of this year, because they have to start building a bit of a stockpile for these cars. So if they do start towards the end of the year, that kind of dovetails in with early spring, you know, January, February, March, somewhere in there, to actually build some, you know, some validation prototypes so they can drive around and start testing these cars. They have to go to places like Norway to test for cold. They have to go to Death Valley for testing of the, you know, high temperatures. All these things have to be worked out before they actually start, you know, pre-production. And then later in the summer, once the, you know, the production line's in place and they start getting parts in, then they can do a short run of pre-production cars to test the tooling and the final stuff. So that I would say probably around September of next year, we'll probably start seeing you know, final production cars ready so that they can do the final reveal. That's the other thing too. We're not too sure whether they're going to do the final reveal Towards the end of this year, there seems to be some confusion because there's a lot of talk about autopilot version 2 as well. My feeling though is that Elon had said that they would do the second reveal, the second part 2 of the Model 3 closer to production. So to me that really means sometime next year. They still have some work to do on the interiors to finish that. So I hope that answers some questions. If you have any more questions, kind of put them down in the comments. Don't forget to consider following us on Twitter. The handle is @Model3Owners. We also have a forum at model3ownersclub.com. You can join there, and don't forget to subscribe so that you can get notices of new videos as they come out. So anyways, thanks for watching. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks.